Hi, everybody. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Libby, and I'm here with Francis, and he is getting ready in the background so that we can talk to consciousness that we call Mercredan. Um, Today, we're going to talk to Mercredan about diet and nutrition and the spiritual connection to what we eat and drink. So if you enjoy today's content, please give us a like, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to keep updated if you'd like to. If you do have any questions during today's live broadcast, feel free to write it in the comments box. If you have any questions after we've gone live, like if you're watching this on a replay, feel free to put them also in the comments box below, and any topics that you might want to talk about in the future. But in the meantime, we're going to cross live to Francis and see what Mercredan has to say for us today. Over to you, Francis.
Once again, it is my privilege and pleasure to come and spend these few moments of your time. The shift in consciousness is upon you. Humankind always wishes for balance, and balance requires justice. Balance leads to justice. And if justice is not forthcoming, then you experience chaos and the breakdown of the social normality. Conflict arises and brings with it the needs for humankind to rise up to bring in the justice that is needed. Enough for us to begin a conversation.
Interesting. Thank you, Mercredan, for being with us again today. So there are a lot of theories of what we should or shouldn't eat or drink for health or longevity, from paleo to keto or Mediterranean diet, low fat to low carb, from carnivore to veganism and vegetarianism. So what should we make of all of this? And is there some substance in anything that the researchers are sharing with us, or is it all just marketing? Or does none of this actually matter, and what we believe is best for us from a nutritional standpoint is more important than anything? Can you talk to us about this?
It is a challenging topic. Like everything else, when one becomes trapped in the physical body, when one perceives physicality in the fixed way, then of course what you build the body out of becomes an important consideration. Yet, shall we say, as I have always tried to make clear, everything is interconnected, interdynamic, as it were, interrelated, and so forth. So shall we say then, diet, what one feeds the population, is not separate from everything else. So in the physical world, the powers that have dominated require, shall we say, an economy. And with that economy comes what you arrive at as capitalism, which requires what you call the profit margin, and so on it goes. So shall we say now we see food, which is the natural growing process in your gardens or fields or whatever, needs to be processed. Why? Because until you process it, there will not be any profit margin. Do you follow why I am taking such time? So, shall we say then, if you begin to realize this is the process that one is within, because along with it, because one has a social organization based upon this processing, then not only is the food processed as such, but so too is the population. So you want to process the population to gain the greatest profit margin. So now you have what is the easiest thing in order to create a marketing force for all the other entities that provide, shall we say, a stable social order. The social order, of course, is from a top into a bottom. It is hierarchical in structure, and yet in nature that is never the case. So all of this leads to the idea that a particular diet will suffice. But what are you dieting for? To overcome the challenges brought about through the processing function. Do you follow what I mean? So then if we look at it, you cannot simply deal with one area of life and avoid seeing the whole thing, shall we say, one's imagination, one's mind, one's attitudes, how one even who one selects as one's leaders, what you do for to fit into the society, where in the structure of the hierarchy one fits. All of it will affect one's view of one's personality and one's physical body. Do you understand? Then one begins to take actions which lead, shall we say, to poor self-image. Poor self-image leads to a need to affect it by changing what one can. Rather than change the mind, one changes what one eats, hoping for something to change. Do you understand what I'm getting at?
Yes.
So shall we say then, when one is in balance with oneself, when one is in touch with oneself, the inner nature will be guiding. For example, it will suggest that one takes some exercise, not extreme in any fashion, but a general nature of moving the muscles and joints and so forth as part of what I am going to call the health routine. Then the body will also suggest this is good and that is to be in moderation. Not to say that one should avoid everything, but to avoid extremes, to notice one's addictions, because life holds you in the physical by one's addiction to something. Otherwise, one drifts into the fantasy worlds and is not engaging. Do you understand what I mean? So, shall we say, when one is in balance, one's diet is feeding the body, one's exercise is distributing the energy of digestive forces, one is in harmony with those surrounding you. You are not in conflict. Do you understand? Then balance becomes this ebb and flow of the river of life. And within the river of life is the current cease. That is the bringing in and the distribution, letting go, taking in, letting go. All of this is a balancing act. Shall we put it this way? When one is balancing on one foot, shall we say, you do not find the exact point, but you are constantly adjusting to bring it back into balance and so forth. Yet when you are riding your bicycle, the very act of moving helps in the act of balance. I want to say this. The evidence all around gives you the clues for your inner nature. Does this begin to shed some light on the question?
It does, thank you. So what I've heard is that our views and ideas, our attitudes and our actions plays more of a role on our health than perhaps nutrition. But then when we balance ourselves, so then when we live in harmony with our views and beliefs, then our body will, what you said, it will suggest what is good for us to consume, whether something is good or something needs to be consumed in moderation.
Shall we say, then you look in the mirror and you see, is this in balance? Is this body finding its natural course? You understand this? There is also this idea of longevity, living for longer and longer. For what purpose? Do you understand? If one arrives in planet Earth shall we say, as one embodies with a plan, with a purpose, and one manages, shall we say, to fulfill the purpose early on, then what else is the purpose? Do you follow what I mean? Unless you find another more exciting purpose, then you are out of balance in the thread of life. Now you are out of balance, then you look to fulfill whatever desires that you wish. So then you become attracted to foods, you become attracted to, shall we say, over-exercising, you get attracted to sex, you get attracted to all of these things because one has lost the purpose you came into body for. If you have completed that purpose, then what is the reason to stay on? To follow what I mean?
Yes.
One might, of course, have a purpose that is ongoing, that does not have a finite end. So it is not a goal to achieve. It is a reason, and one will always find in this case the reason is to be of service to others. Then one stays on until one can no longer fulfill the purpose of being at service to others.
Interesting. Can I circle back a bit around nutrition? I hear that it's more about the balance of the body, but a lot of people would like to know if there is a more suitable diet for living a spiritual life or going through a spiritual awakening, perhaps.
Also difficult. Let us suggest in certain environments, it is always better to consume foods that are close to one's beingness, shall we say. Then if one lives in a place where vegetables and fruits and so on grow in abundance, then what is the need for something else, shall we say, to slaughter the animals or whatever? However, that is not the case for many peoples. So, shall we say, there is not something specific that is for the general advice. And yet, at the same time, shall we say, overindulgence in anything will always lead to disharmony. So if you are consuming, shall we say, only the vegetables, then one will find certain things missing. One might then have to add different ingredients, not necessarily animals and so on, but you realize there is a missing ingredient that one needs to fully be in balance. Others, shall we say, that consume only a meat diet, a non-vegetarian diet, will find also the same. There are things that are missing that are necessary to support the physical body. So everything one does always comes with a consequence.
So what would your
one,
advice be? Sorry. What would your advice be around gaining direction or guidance as to what we should be eating? Should that really just come from our inner guidance?
That is best. Also, shall we say, the reflections of the body. If you are in harmony, you are also healthy. If you find that you are falling to different forms of disease, then there is something necessary needed as a change, whether it is in one's mental, emotional, or the physical realm. Do you understand? So it is important always to recognize I have had, shall we say, a little stomach upset. Then there is something not quite right in one of my bodies. Usually, of course, it is in all three of the bodies at the same time. If one finds that one has become loaded, shall we say, with certain difficulties, then to look into one's behaviors, what is best, that is attracted, that one cannot live without, then also that is part of the balance. Shall we say, then if one is so certain of what is right and wrong for people to eat, then it will play havoc with your own system. Judgments bring about disharmony. Disharmony brings about dis-ease. Do you understand what I mean? So shall we say what is good diet for one person is not necessarily the best for everyone else.
Interesting. Thank you. So what is it that you can tell us that I guess is the most important thing that we should remember, or things that we could work on from today's session?
I want to say, when you have a conversation with yourself, when you have a conversation with your body, and you become clear about what is it that you are judging about it. Maybe you think it is too big or too small or too inflexible or not beautiful and so on. All of those are immediately put into the creative force. Now you will find you are attracted and are attracting others to carry your same conviction. And then you live in a world of protection and self. I want to use the word emulation. That is, one is wanting to destroy oneself because it seems that everything is out of one's control. And yet, if you have your conversation, the body will indeed suggest alternatives. In other words, if you are feeling like you are carrying too much fat, then reduce the amount of fat that you consume. Do you understand? If one is feeling that you are not sweet enough, then reduce the amount of sugars that you are putting in, because it is telling you something. And so for some people, it is necessary to increase these qualities, these food types. You understand? So it is important, shall we say, to recognize flexibility is not just in the external world, but all the internal organs require to keep their flexibility. So that is including one's muscles, one's heart, one's liver, one's veins, one's brain, one's genitals, one's toenails even. Do you understand? All about requiring flexibility of attitudes and letting go of judgments of self and others. That is the best advice I can offer. Letting go of judgments of self and others. Recognize most people are doing the best that they can, as are yourself. Every little step in bringing one's awareness to the shall we call it the greater plan of inclusiveness. Whatever I do, whatever I think, whatever I feel affects the whole, and that whole will also affect myself. Enough for today.
Thank you.
Then once again, thanking everyone for the work in consciousness, that is the clearing out of the inner cupboards of outdated beliefs and ideas, eliminating one's past histories and making room. Shall we call it redecorating the inner environment with some new colors? And thank you, and goodbye.
Thank you so much, Mercredan. And thank you, Francis. And thank you for everybody who's still with us. Another riveting conversation with Mercredan. Especially loved that last 5 minutes. Hope you did too. If you really enjoyed today's content, please give us a like. And if you'd like to stay updated, make sure you click the subscribe button. Delane will be back with us again in 3 days' time, talking about neurodiversity and the causes and purposes and more. So in the meantime, I hope you have a wonderful rest of the week. If you've got any comments on topic suggestions or questions for future, please make sure you put them in the comments box below. Otherwise, have a wonderful day and we'll see you here next time. Bye for now.